There's a sound Dubai Marina makes before the city wakes up. Not the yachts, not the construction, that never really stopped. It's the pumps. A low mechanical hum coming up through the promenade tiles, through marble lobbies, through parking garages where the water line creeps a little higher every season. Most people living here stopped noticing it years ago. I noticed it the first morning I pressed my palm against a drainage grate at the south end of the walk. The vibration didn't pause, didn't fluctuate, constant, like a heartbeat that cannot afford a single missed beat. 4 kilometers of skyline, more than 200 towers, 120,000 residents, all of it sitting on land that, 20 years ago, was the floor of the Arabian Gulf. The pumps run every hour of every day to keep that truth from surfacing. This video is about what happens when they stop. Let me give you a number the listings never lead with. A 2-bedroom apartment in Dubai Marina today will run you somewhere between 1.8 million and 4.5 million dirhams. That's roughly 500,000 to 1.2 million US dollars. The average price per square foot in 2025 sits at 2,187 dirhams. 2 years ago, it was 1,580. That's a 38% jump. The brochure calls this momentum. What it doesn't mention is what arrives after you sign. Service charges, the annual fee every owner pays for maintenance, security, common areas, average 16 dirhams per square foot across the district. In towers built between 2003 and 2008, that number climbs to 25, sometimes 28 dirhams per square foot. Run the math on a 1,400 square foot apartment in one of those buildings. You're writing a check for 35 to 39,000 dirhams every year before a single utility bill, before you fix anything inside your own 4 walls. Then add cooling. Buildings on district cooling, and much of the marina falls into this category, send owners a separate invoice every month. In summer, residents report 1,850 dirhams just for chilled water, on top of 600 for standard electricity. Nearly $30,000 a year just to stay cool in a place where the alternative is 47-degree heat. Stack it all together for a typical owner in a 15-year-old marina tower. Annual service charge, 38,000 dirhams. Annual utilities, 21 to 30,000 dirhams. Transfer fee at purchase, 4% of the sale price. On a 3 million dirham apartment, that's 120,000 dirhams. Gone before you collect a single key. Gross rental yield looks fine on paper. Net yield, once the real costs land, looks considerably less so. Here's a concept most buyers are never clearly explained: the sinking fund. Every year, a portion of your service charge feeds a reserve account meant to cover major future repairs. When the elevator needs replacing, 800,000 to 1.2 million dirhams per unit in a high-rise, the fund is supposed to cover it. When the facade needs resealing, 2 to 5 million dirhams for a 40-floor tower, the fund covers it. Full HVAC overhaul, 4 to 8 million dirhams. Basement waterproofing, which in a district built on reclaimed seabed is not optional, it is structural necessity, 1.5 to 3 million per cycle. The sinking fund contributions set in 2005, 2006, 2007. They were calculated against construction-era costs. Those costs have risen sharply since then. In some of the marina's older buildings, the gap between what was saved and what is now needed has grown from a rounding error into something much more serious. What building administrators describe, always off the record, is a permanent state of triage. Fix the elevator because you have no choice. Delay the facade because it won't collapse immediately. patch the basement because full remediation is unaffordable this year. And then next year, the same calculation repeats, except the deferred problem is now larger and 15 to 25% more expensive to fix than it was 12 months ago. Every repair that gets postponed is a debt quietly transferred to every single owner in the building. The financial problem is visible, eventually. The structural one is not, and that is exactly what makes it dangerous. When I went back and compared the construction timelines against the maintenance reports now surfacing in building audits, a pattern emerged that wasn't random. The towers completed fastest during the hottest years of the boom are the ones showing the earliest signs of what engineers call premature spalling, concrete breaking away from the surface as corroding steel inside expands and pushes outward. Here's the mechanism. Chloride ions, the aggressive component of sea salt, don't need large cracks to get inside concrete. They migrate through microscopic fissures, invisible to any visual inspection. Once inside, they attack the reinforcing steel. The steel corrodes and expands. The expansion fractures the concrete from within. The fractures allow more intrusion. The cycle feeds itself, silently, for years, while the facade outside stays polished. In Gulf coastal environments, peer-reviewed studies record corrosion rates 2 to 3 times higher than equivalent structures in continental cities. The towers of Dubai Marina were built on a schedule where entire buildings were finished in under 2 years. Concrete was poured in temperatures exceeding 45 degrees Celsius. Optimal curing wasn't always achieved. Advanced admixtures that could have slowed chloride penetration were in some projects cut from the mix design to save money and stay on schedule. By the time spalling is visible on a facade, it has been happening inside that structure for the better part of a decade. June 2017. A power failure knocked out the main stormwater pumping station serving part of Dubai Marina for nearly 48 hours. Emergency crews restored power before flooding became catastrophic. In that sense, it was a success. But for every engineer who reviewed the incident report afterward, it was something else entirely, a demonstration of exactly how thin the margin is. Dubai Marina sits 1 to 3 meters above sea level. Its drainage system has no passive backup, no gravity alternative. When the pump stopped, water began moving toward the lowest points within hours. Basements, utility corridors, mechanical rooms where the pumps themselves are housed. The system held. Barely. The IPCC projects that a half-meter rise in sea level, within the range of models for the Arabian Gulf by 2050, would approximately double the frequency of serious flooding events in a district with this profile. That's not a distant scenario. That's 25 years from now. Some of the towers being marketed today as luxury investments will not have completed their first full maintenance cycle by the time that projection arrives. Walk through Dubai Marina on a Tuesday afternoon and count the dark windows. There are more than you'd expect. Dubai Land Department data confirms the pattern. A substantial majority of the district's 40,000 apartments are held by investors, not residents. Year after year, the dominant transaction types are offshore company purchases, cash buyers, and operators cycling units between short-term rental platforms. In some buildings, 15 to 20% of units sit empty for months at a time. During the 2014 peak, Marina apartments were transacting at 2,500 dirhams per square foot. When the market corrected, values dropped to 1,800, a 28% decline in months. The ownership structure that made that correction so fast has not changed. Concentrated speculative holdings amplify every signal in both directions. Good news drives prices faster than fundamentals justify. Bad news? A visible structural failure, a regulatory fine that makes international headlines, a global liquidity event, triggers a simultaneous response from hundreds of investors. and there are not enough end-user buyers in the market to absorb a coordinated sell-off. A speculative market doesn't decline gradually. When confidence shifts, it shifts fast. More than 200 towers, foundations driven into compacted marine fill, not bedrock. Concrete aging in one of the most corrosive coastal environments on the planet. A water management system that cannot pause. A financial structure in which most units are held for speculation, maintenance reserves are running thin, and the gap between what's been collected and what's actually needed grows quietly every year while the promenade stays polished. There are two buildings that engineers reference when this conversation comes up. Champlain Towers South, Surfside, Florida. Pool deck waterproofing had been flagging in engineering reports since 2018. The special assessment to fix it was delayed. Costs were debated. In June 2021, the building collapsed. 98 people died. Post-collapse investigation identified saltwater intrusion into the foundation columns as a primary contributing factor. The Millennium Tower, San Francisco, a 58-story luxury building completed in 2009, founded on compacted sand, not bedrock, the same geological condition underlying every tower in Dubai Marina. By 2021, it had sunk 18 inches and tilted 26 inches at the roof. Emergency remediation cost more than $100 million. Residents were not informed for years after engineers identified the movement. Neither comparison is exact. The pattern they share, inadequate foundation conditions, salt or water intrusion, deferred maintenance, concentrated ownership, and a gap between what engineers know and what owners are told, that pattern is not geography-specific. I keep coming back to the pumps. There's something clarifying about infrastructure you can hear. It makes the dependency explicit. You know, when you feel that hum through your palm, that the system is running. And you know, in the same moment, what silence would mean. The question isn't whether Dubai Marina will collapse tomorrow. It won't. The engineering that built this district is genuinely extraordinary, a feat of ambition and technical skill that deserves real credit. The question is whether the accumulated weight of deferred maintenance, rising service charges, structural aging, concentrated speculation, and a water table that has never stopped trying to reclaim what it lost, whether that weight becomes visible before the people responsible for these buildings are forced to act on what the data already shows. The pumps are still running. For now, that's enough. But in a district where image is the primary product and where the margin between enough and not enough is a single power outage away, that is a sentence worth finishing before someone else finishes it for you.